Hey, what is up guys, it is Slickmoff here. I'm back again with another video, and this one talking about Injustice 2 and my thoughts on guest characters, aka non-DC characters appearing in Injustice 2, which Ed Boon has been teasing quite a bit on Twitter and asking, which guest characters do we want to see, which ones are going to be in the game and that sort of thing. From the initial main menu screens that we've gotten from gameplay actually in the game, there's going to be 28 characters in Injustice 2. 28 characters, and it's reasonable to assume that with how much he's been teasing guest characters, and he also said outright on Twitter, there's going to be more than there ever has been in, any of their fighting games, more guest characters not from that universe that they're making. Moreover, there's going to be, a variety of guest characters in the main ship of the game and also likely in the DLC. So I wanted to give my thoughts on guest characters being in Injustice 2 as a whole, because I do consider the fact that this game has to represent the DC Universe in only 28 characters in its roster. Of course, in the story mode, you can have more than that about in the story, which is a really important thing to me, is, the story of the game, which is something I'm looking forward to, a lot for the game. But however, only 28 of those characters are actually going to be playable in the game. And you don't want to have too many playable characters in a game because then there can be balance issues, right? It's hard to balance if you have 50 characters and they're all, really good and, there's problems, especially with the gear system they're introducing. So you have to be careful with that. I'm not advocating for having 50 or 100 characters and just throw guest characters in there, throw Marvel characters. I mean, who cares? Just throw people. I mean, obviously, I'm not advocating for that. I think that 28 is actually a good number for the game. The problem that I have with it is this: if you're putting in guest characters, I was just thinking about it, right? And I was just thinking about, you can make a fighting style game like Injustice, but instead of focusing on the DC universe, you can just focus on one character. Literally, you can just focus on Batman, and you can make a 28 character fighting game with just Batman characters and heroes and villains and that sort of thing. I mean, think about it. 30 characters? I mean, that's easy. And this isn't even scraping the bottom of the barrel. Batman, Red Hood, Nightwing, Red Robin, Batgirl, Batwoman, Clayface, Spoiler, the Joker, Harley Quinn, Deathstroke, Poison Ivy, Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow, Bane, Black Mask, Catwoman, Deadshot, Deathstroke, Firefly, Killer Croc, Man-Bat, Mr. Freeze, Killer Moth, Solomon Grundy, Victor Zsasz. Okay, now we're kind of scraping the bottom of it. Two-Face? No, not really. Anarchy, Copperhead, KG Beast. That's probably 30 right there. So, I mean, I just read you off a roster of a Batman, style Injustice game. And I think that would be a really fun game, personally, I'm just saying. But, so you see my point here. You have to encapsulate the entirety of the DC Universe. I don't even know why there's any questions of guest characters. I don't think there should be any at all. Because you can't even represent even just a little bit of the DC Universe, really. And it's so expansive and massive, and there's so much lore behind it, that to represent it in only 34 characters, you have to make serious sacrifices in the DC universe. You have to exclude characters that are fan-loved, that, everybody wants to see, but you just can't do. And, we're starting to see them expand a little bit more into the DC universe with characters like Blue Beetle and Supergirl, which is awesome to see. At the same point, if you're really a DC universe fan, these characters aren't like existential, support characters. They're mainstays in the DC universe, right? And, if we're talking about villains alone, even if you just take the most popular villain from each of the Justice League characters, the Joker, Cheetah, Sinestro, for instance, I mean, even then, if we're looking at this, you still are, that's half of your characters right there. So I think the idea of including, like Spawn and other, characters from MKX, I'm assuming is what they're from, I think is a little bit ridiculous, to be honest with you. Just a little bit. Because, at the same point, it's not like we're seeing the Flash in, MKX or anything like that, okay? So it seems very odd that they have to put MKX characters in Injustice. And keep in mind, this is coming from the perspective of a fan that doesn't play Mortal Kombat. I just play, the fighting games with, superheroes in them and that sort of thing. That's just, what interests me about fighting games. However, here's also my point about the Flash, okay? The Flash, he's not, as I, alluded to, he's not in MKX or any of their other fighting games, so I don't see why they have to have MKX characters in Injustice, but they have not even announced that the Flash is in their game. It's been leaked as well. not really leaked, we knew this at a time, that the game's going to come out in the first quarter of 2017. That means the first 4 months of the year. So that's really exciting. March or April is when we can look towards for the release of the game. So it's only months away, literally months away. That's it. And then the game's going to come out. It's going to be the first release for superhero games in 2017. And I'm super excited for it. I mean, you see the gameplay in the background that you're watching. I actually just got that today, and I was just reminded of how much fun this game is. It is a whole lot of fun to play from a gameplay perspective, but also it has the, you know, the rich story behind it, which I look forward to playing through. And which is my point exactly. I just think that they should not be focusing on you know, these MKX characters when the DC universe in and of itself is so expansive that you have so many characters to draw from there that we want to see, you know, like Poison Ivy, for instance, who's not a gimme in the game. In fact, there's a high probability we won't see her at all, but is super awesome, you know, and we would love to see in the game, and is probably going to be cut because they don't have space. So if you don't have space for integral DC universe characters like Darkseid, who wasn't in the first one and may not be in this one, and there's a spot, but you have a spot for Spawn or other MK characters, I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. So again, I'm not advocating for having 100 characters. What I'm advocating for is making this a DC Universe game. You know, MKX had its time to shine for 2 years. I think it's time that they make a DC fighting game, and that means that you know, putting these DLC or you know, these as they call them, guest characters on the back burner, and don't even put them in the DLC, because as a DC fan, I want to buy a season pass that expands upon the DC universe that they're establishing in Injustice 2. Maybe this is a stubborn stance of somebody that you know, plays or is really interested in Injustice 2 because it's a DC Universe game more than it is a fighting game per se, but I am very interested in the fighting aspects of it. My thing, as I just mentioned, that really blows this into proportion for me, is I just read for you a list of 30, I think the list I just read for you is about 31, 32 characters long, and that is just Batman. That is just one of the Justice League characters. I don't know if I could do the same thing for Wonder Woman, or you know, a few heroes, but you get the point. I mean, literally, you can have 200 characters that all fight distinctly and are awesome and are cool to the game. So if you're going to cut it down to 28, don't put in guest characters. Let's make this a DC Universe game, and again, at least announce the Flash before you're teasing all of these guest characters, you know what I mean? And just these integral characters to the universe that they haven't announced yet, but they're prioritizing this. So that worries me about where the priorities lie in terms of, you know, creating characters and, you know, prioritizing the DC Universe in this game. Okay, guys, I hope you'll have enjoyed the commentary. I'm not going to ramble on for much longer. Sorry if this commentary sounds whiny. It is to a degree, but really it's just, like, odd to me that they're talking about these guest characters and they haven't even announced the Flash. I mean, it's just weird. I just don't understand it. It's concerning almost to a degree of, like, I mean, I'm not worried about the game or, you know, that it's going to be half guest characters, but it looks like they're shipping with a few. Oh, it's just weird. Okay, guys, hope you'll have enjoyed the video, and we'll see you all in the next one.